All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, what I'm going to call this podcast, or what I think I'm going to call it, is hang out with all different age groups. And, if you know anything about me, I love babies. I like toddlers too. I like it all. I have a blast with them. My family's massive. They keep having children. Two of my cousins actually just last week, or is it this week? In the last week, had two children. Uh, and I have probably about 200 cousins. But one thing that I love more than anything is hanging out with all different ages when it comes to people. I don't care if you're 10, I don't care if you're 20, I don't care if you're 30, 40, 50, all the way up. Love the elderly. I don't say that to like score points either. I enjoy truly everyone. I don't really look at age a lot of times. I goof around and talk about myself being older now that I'm in my 50s. But for the most part, even my daughters now being in their 20s, and I guess one of my stepsons or whatever you want to call him, he is, still, did he just turn 20? He was in his teens. I got a big kick out of him. And then, I have a lot of other younger people I work with, like my engineer. I love very much Omar. And then I've been actually recently working with some other teenager guys for my marketing. And, I have other people I hang around literally in their mid-20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I don't care. I just want to enjoy their company. I think what holds a lot of people back is we think we have to hit a certain age and we can only kind of hang out with certain type of people. You feel kind of foolish, for instance, if you hung out with somebody you're 40 and you're hanging out with 20-year-olds. I kind of get it if you're if you're in your 40s and you're hanging out with 20-year-olds, getting smashed with them and hanging out in clubs and all that. That may look a little weird. I'm not going to lie. But I do remember in the old days when I used to hang out in clubs all the time. There were guys that worked out in my gym that were in their late 30s and 40s. And what was funny is I'd run into them in different places sometimes. And I always would run up, give them big hugs, and love hanging out with them. And they used to just get a kick out of me, like not being almost embarrassed to hang out with older dudes. And I would also invite them everywhere. And I think how I kind of fell into all this was being raised in the bar and nightclub, and also collecting money in all, bars and nightclubs and gentlemen's clubs, because there's all different group, ages of all sorts. Usually over 21, but there's some, I even used to go to teen clubs and there were younger people there as well. But for the most part, when you went to bars, there were people that were 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I also knew hundreds of bar owners, all different ages, managers, bartenders, waitresses, all different ages. And, I do think, and I'm going to say it again, we kind of get bogged down by judging people by how old they are. I also think that happens a lot of times when hiring people. You think maybe because, they're older, they're more experienced, right? Or if they're they're too young, they're not experienced enough, or all these different types of things, and I get it. If somebody's been in the business a lot longer than someone else, I know how you're going to kind of profile that person, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if profiling is the word, but you're going to kind of, feel that person out. But I'm here to tell you, a lot of times people blow a lot of things. Blow it as in like not hiring the right person because of their age, and also not hanging out with certain people because you think they're going to be a certain way because of their age. Again, that can go for younger or older. But I'm going to say one thing here regarding age, that really a lot of times is just a number. I run into so many different people that kind of blow me away, that are older, that think very young, that are very fun. I've also around younger people that kind of are like old souls, and that they think differently than their age. And then you have other people that act obviously completely different than that. We all have our own thing, and I think a lot of times we want to box people in and say, oh my God, these are millennials, these are Generation X, this is baby boomers, this is how they all act, this is how they think, this is what they do. I think a lot of that's bullshit. And I just wanted to do a podcast on this because the one thing I really love more than anything is learning from others, especially the youth. I'm not saying I always agree with the youth, But I'm here to tell you, I don't agree with many different generations. So I don't just say, hey, they are this way. Because I think a lot of the youth gets kind of hammered. And I think no matter what generation you're from, you kind of hammer the generation a little, I guess you could say, after you. Because I think what happens a lot of times is, they're different, especially with technology. They may be a little more advanced in certain things, and things sometimes can be a little more technical or a little more complicated, or you may not like that. I mean, if you look at the 70s and the way they behaved, people in the 50s and 60s thought they were crazy when they were partying or whenever they were in New York or in Chicago and the nightclub scene. And then the 80s came, and then the people, then that was a whole different phase. And then the 90s and then the 2000s. And each generation, I remember, kind of complaining about the next generation. And I think that's just a lot of bullshit. Listen, things are going to change. People are always going to be coming. You got to understand, the youth is kind of just, they're going to always be so different than probably who you are. And you just have to accept it, that that's the way it is. You may not understand it because you're not living it. But anyways, that's a whole nother podcast, right? But I just want to do a podcast on this. If you're dating, I talk a lot about this in relationships or whatever the case may be. Again, I'm not telling you to go date somebody who's 30, 40, 50 years older, younger than you. You could do whatever the hell you want to do as long as it's legal. But I do think it's ridiculous that a lot of times we do put, a stigma on somebody, like a woman dating a dude that's younger than them. And, it's just kind of, again, you just got to find who's right for you. Just because they're 10 years age difference. It could be 15, it could be 20. I don't know what the hell it is. It's really none of my business. But I'm here to tell you that, again, a lot of people get caught up with that age thing, and I think they blow it again. Because instead of looking at the type of person that is, they're just looking at a number. And they're thinking, oh, they're from that generation, or, oh, they believe in this. Oh, they're just a young kid, or they don't know what they're doing, or they're not, they don't know what they're, just all that bullshit. I just think that's just such nonsense, and I want to do a podcast on this. And that can go for, I'm going to say this, my Uncle Tony, I'm going to wrap it up with this. My Uncle Tony turned 80 yesterday. I love him very much. I even went to Italy with him. He's been around my whole life. He has more energy than anyone I've ever seen. It is crazy, and I've always kind of looked at him, and he gets along with everyone. All my family members, I don't care if they're 70 or if they're 20. And he always treated me unbelievable. Even though he's like, almost 30 years older than me. I remember him as a little boy. He took me places. And that goes for a lot of my uncles and aunts that were older than me. They always treated me so incredible. I'm not going to say they treated me as an equal because I was a child. But as I got older, they always treated me with such respect. And I just hope to do the same. So I will wrap it up with that one. All right. If you have any questions or comments, you can hit me up, and quit judging people by their age is basically what I'm saying. Sometimes I feel like, what am I talking about sometimes? But yeah, get a little open-minded. Go have some fun. Don't be intimidated by the youth. And if you're younger, you younger people, don't be intimidated by the older. All right? I'm telling you, they could teach you a lot of things. We all can learn something from someone, that I could assure you. I don't care if you're younger, middle-aged, or older. We all have things we can learn.